The severe thunderstorm losses that we've been seeing here in the U.S. have been increasing dramatically over the last couple of decades. If we go back to 1990 and look at kind of the trend in losses, particularly insured losses, we're seeing a 9% increase every year of insured losses just due to severe thunderstorms. If we look at this in comparison to other perils average about 6% every year. So this is telling us something, that there's something going on with this particular peril. There's either more exposure, more vulnerability, and it's something we should talk about. And so with that in mind, I would like to bring up Tanya Brown as our first speaker. She is with the Insurance Institute of Building and Home Safety and has been doing a lot of work in hail research and hail mitigation. And she's going to talk to us about that today.
I'll do like Kirsten asked and just tell you a little bit about myself and my research. I've been at IBHS for a little over almost 5 years now, actually, and I'm primarily focused on hail research there. But my history with them actually goes back a fair bit longer. I interned for them several years before that and focused on wildfire and wind risk. So really I do a lot of different things there at the Institute. I see we are ready now, so I'll go ahead and get started. I was primarily asked to talk about hail mitigation, but I want to also kind of twist and put a little bit of a wind emphasis on it there at the end as well. So, let's see. So to start out, we want to talk about the hailstorm risk itself, and this is a map of the United States and the risk as we understand it in the current day. I think a lot of people think of hail as an issue for Oklahoma and Texas and Colorado and Kansas, but what you can see here is that really the hail risk extends basically across the eastern 2/3 of the United States. And if you extend that up into Canada, it's pretty much the same kind of areas. It's really a much wider spread problem than I think a lot of people give it credit for. Where I live right now in South Carolina, I've only been there 5 years and we've had 2 damaging hailstorms just in that time period. So it's not really confined to just one area. Sure, we don't see baseball-sized hail very frequently in South Carolina, but we do see them occasionally. So I think this gives us a nice perspective that this really is a larger issue than I think a lot of people think about. So I want to start off by talking about some of the findings that we had from a recent claims study that we conducted. You know, were there any patterns that stood out in terms of materials that were more damageable than others? So for this particular study, there was over 67,000 policies in the study and over 6,000 of them had claims. So we're going to look at the relationships between those. If you want more detail on that, there's a recent publication that was published in AMS's Weather, Climate, and Society Journal, and the online release is available now. I don't know when the print version is coming out, but it'll be later this year. If we take a look at the claims frequency from this particular event, we looked at all the policies within that data set, all 67,000, and for those that had a claim, 9.6% of that whole data set had a claim associated with the roof. The reason why I want to kind of point this out is that's going to lead into where I'm going with this talk. The roof tends to be the most vulnerable part of a building when it comes to hailstorms. If you think about hail, it generally falls vertically. The surface it's going to hit first is the roof. Now sometimes you'll have some wind-blown hail that can also start to damage some walls, windows, doors, things like that, but for the most part, it's a vertically falling projectile. So no surprise that the majority of the damage that we saw in this data set was associated with the roof. But even more than that, if there was a claim, 91% of the damage or 91% of the costs that were paid out on that claim were associated with the roof. So that's an even bigger issue. Not only is the roof the most frequently damaged component, it's also the most costly, and it's the most costly by a lot. So that kind of leads in the direction of how we focus our research at the Institute. We really focus on the roof, not only for hail, but for some of our other perils as well. There have been other studies that have shown us that the roof is the most common thing that's damaged and also the most costly. So we put a lot of our efforts on that. So I wanted to share that information with you to just kind of set the stage for some of the different research aspects that we're doing, and then I'll talk a little bit about the state of the science in terms of mitigation. One of the things that we've been doing is looking at the impact resistance of various building materials. Primarily right now we're focused on asphalt shingles, So we've been conducting a program where we run standardized tests. These are tests that are prescribed by Underwriters Laboratory or FM approvals. We run those tests to look at the vulnerability of these different products to try to understand, are there certain product groups or types that are more resilient than others to potential hailstorm impacts. So we want to look at those different subsets of products, and we also want to eventually explore how their vulnerabilities change as the products age in different climates as well. So this is the first video, if you'll cue that one up in the back there. This is going to show the standardized test that's written by Underwriters Laboratory. It's a steel ball drop. So it drops a heavy steel ball from the height necessary to replicate the kinetic energy of a same-size hailstone falling in nature. It's a very, very heavy projectile. You don't want to drop that on your foot. But the test method requires that you hit certain portions of an asphalt shingle. You hit them with a double impact, and you look at the results under a magnifier.
Do you have sound on this that we need to hook up?
There's no sound on this one now.
Great.
There is sound on one at the end though.
Thank you.
So you see that we inspect those under the microscope, and we're looking specifically for a crack or a tear on the back side of the shingle. So the photos that I've got shown there on the right side of the screen are some of the examples of damage that we have seen under the microscope looking at these products. So if you see one of those cracks or tears, that's considered a test failure from the perspective of the product and according to the test standard. One of the things that I'll point out is that some of these products are supposed to pass this test. That one in the bottom corner with that mesh reinforcement on the back, that product is supposed to pass that test, and it did not. You can see the crack in it. So we've been working with Underwriters Laboratory a fair bit to try to understand why some of these products are not passing the test even though they're supposed to and certified to pass it, and they're actually changing some of their inspection and retesting procedures to try to understand this and prompt the manufacturers to step it up a notch. If they're rated to pass this test, they need to pass it. So if we look at some of the results, I'm not going to go through these in a whole lot of detail, but what I wanted to show is what if we take a basic product, either of the 3-tab variety or of an architectural, those are two different kinds of shingles. What if we take those and we compare them to a premium product or a product that is impact resistant, meaning it's supposed to pass that particular test. The classes that are shown there are 4 different severities of tests that we do, where class 1 is the least severe or the smallest size steel ball. The class 4 is the most severe test with the largest size steel ball. And what you can see in both cases, both on the left and the right, is that the impact resistant products listed as IR do perform better than the basic counterpart. It's not 100% success. We were not getting 100% passing rates in those tests, but there is an incremental better performance from those products as tested in the laboratory. So, you know, that's an encouraging result, but shame, you know, you guys should be passing this test. So we're hoping that with the more stringent requirements that are being implemented by UL, that we'll actually start to see that number come up. It should be at 100% for class 1, 2, 3, 4. All of those products were rated to pass at that level. One other thing that we did was we broke the products up another way. There's 2 different ways that you can meet an impact resistant rating. One of them is to have that mesh or some kind of mesh on the backside. They call it a scrim, like I showed on that one picture. The other way is actually a chemical modification, a polymer modification of the asphalt in the shingle itself. And this is supposed to make it more elastic, more resilient, better able to absorb that impact energy and rebound or come back to its natural shape. And when we broke the products in categories by that manner, we could see that the impact resistant from the polymer modified side did show a little bit better performance than the traditional with the scrim on the back. So we've been doing a little bit further dive into that to try to understand, is this really something that consistently has better performance, and if so, how can we work with the manufacturers to ensure that these products are available and that people are actually using them. So where are we going after this? We've started doing some ice ball testing now. One of the major criticisms of the UL steel ball method is that it doesn't hail steel balls in the real world. I mean, I haven't seen it. If you've seen it, please call me. It doesn't really do that. So one of the major criticisms of the method is that it's not very realistic. So we've been exploring another method, which is ice ball impact testing. FM did write a standard to do that kind of testing. We're taking their method and we're adapting it a bit to try to even make it more realistic by changing the characteristics of the ice balls that we shoot at those panels, using some of the data that we've collected in the field on real hailstones over the past several years. So We've been looking at that. We're trying to come up with a damage metric that'll help claims adjusters in particular, and even really contractors and consultants understand, if I see this on the roof, it means this in terms of the damageability of the products, and it means this in terms of whether or not I need to repair or replace that. So we're going to take one more video here, if you'll cue that one up. This will show the ice ball impact style of test. So we measure every stone that we produce there. We produce those all by hand currently. We've got a custom designed gun to replicate that FM test. And we computer control the firing of it. We collect all the information. We impact each panel. We record the speed there, 77.6 for that one. And this just gives a close-up view of kind of what that impact looks like. So we've been doing both methods of testing so that we can understand how the different test methods play a role in the performance. And we ultimately want to move towards a method like this that's more realistic compared to what Mother Nature is actually producing. Okay? And where are we going next? This is the last video, thank you. This shows a demonstration of our full-scale hail testing capabilities. That's what we're really known for, is full-scale testing. So we conducted this demonstration a couple of years ago where we're firing 3 different sizes of ice balls over a full-scale structure in our large test chamber. This is really the future of where we're going with this kind of research. We want to look at a system-wide approach for understanding the hail hazard and really helping us understand how does the performance of the building change when you look at the whole system? Are there certain repairs and replacement methods that we can do to try to reduce the losses associated with that? We need a full-scale capability to do that. So we've got that capability online. We are bringing on a new piece of machinery that will actually automate the process of making those ice balls so that we don't have to make them by hand, which will be a huge improvement. So that's kind of where we're going next in the hail lab research side. So what I want to talk about to kind of wrap things up is, all right, we know that hail is a damaging thing. We know that it has some issues associated with it. What can we do about it? Really, the best practices, state of the science that's associated with the hail risk is the impact-resistant roof. And one of the things that I wanted to do was show our Code Plus construction program. It's called our Fortified Home Program. It's available for new and existing homes, and it takes an incremental approach to improving a home's resiliency to a variety of natural hazards. To make a more resilient system, primarily aimed at the center part of the country. And I wanted to kind of show both cases of this, because Mark's going to show us a lot of the damages and failures that we're seeing in some of the Joplin tornado scenarios. And a method such as this can help us start to narrow the path of that damage. I'm not at all suggesting that this will give us resiliency against an EF4 or an EF5 tornado. I'm not saying that at all, but incremental progress does start to help to knock down those damages in the EF0, EF1, maybe even the EF2 range, and also you're getting the benefit of a hail-resistant roof or an impact-resistant roof as well. So with that, I'll leave you with this if you want more information on the program. It is the Fortified program, and that's our website, and I'll turn it over.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Sure.
The initial research that you're doing when you're using the actual hailstones, what are you finding is the difference between the test? Is it more damage or less, or a different nature?
Okay, excellent question. All right, so the primary thing that we're seeing is in the motive damage. The motive damage that we primarily see from the steel ball test is actually a crushing of the granules, which is not something that real hail can do. It's not hard enough. When we actually do the ice ball testing, we'll see more of granule dislodging. We'll see a little bit more kind of a denting structure. We'll see kind of patches of granule loss, which are big concerns. The granules are really there to protect the asphalt from UV exposure. And so when you see those kind of damage modes where you're really starting to mess up the integrity of the granules, you start to expose the asphalt long term to UV radiation, which will bring it down in a hurry.
Okay, thank you very much, Tanya.